So on today's episode of Hormones on the Blink, we're going to be talking about PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, how to identify what it is and what can help. Hello and welcome to this episode of Hormones on the Blink podcast.
Hello, welcome back. I don't know why I always have to say a word twice, but I just do.
Let's go with it.
Yeah, that is what my brain likes to do, apparently. So this episode of Hormones on the Blink is going to be all about the reason that I've joined Hormones on the Blink as a trainer. PMDD, which stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So premenstrual dysphoric disorder is a hormone-based mood disorder, which tends to occur in the premenstrual or the luteal phase of your cycle. So some women actually, it's not always that time during the cycle. I think it's most common, but a lot of women have reported to experience it during ovulation. Ovulation is great for me, but it's not great for everyone.
So just to go back to that, Bianca, so the average cycle's, let's say it's 28 days long. So ovulation happens halfway through the month.
Yep.
So we say roughly day 14.
Yes.
So from that point onwards, that can be difficult for some.
Yes.
So we're talking about, the second 2 weeks.
Gone through ovulation, which, as I said, some people find that a struggle.
Yeah.
But then, my experience is that as your hormones start to taper off towards the start of your cycle again, that is the premenstrual. So we've got premenstrual syndrome, and PMDD is like a very intense version of that. And so
what does that feel like for you going through it?
It's very, very intense. Do you know what? It is like, and I think, so I've got the Marina coil fitted, and after that, I've done a lot of lifestyle changes to make sure that my symptom days are as low as possible.
Yeah.
But for me, the symptom days are like, I am not the same person. I am a completely different individual. And so we will have some of the symptoms come up on screen, but some of them that seem to be most common are things like mood and emotional changes. And actually, to have a diagnosis of PMDD, it is essential that you keep a diary, like we mentioned on the last episode. Use something like Flow to track your cycles, because GPs will need to see that you have got 5 symptoms of PMDD, one of them being a core emotional symptom. So for me, one of the core emotional symptoms that I struggle with a lot, or several actually, is anxiety and depression, really low mood, but actually is that intense rage, real anger, snappiness. And for me, you ask, what does it feel like? It's almost like this build up. It's like I can feel this build up of change in, with my hormones, with the chemicals in my brain. I can feel that physical change. And PMDD it's not a hormone imbalance. It is a sensitivity to that change in the hormones throughout that specific part of the month. So it feels very much like it's bubbling up inside me. I'm feeling very angry. I'm all of a sudden becoming very overwhelmed with life. So something that from 1 week, if I'm at the start of my cycle, I could go into the shop and I could pick up some lunch and it's absolutely fine. And then another week, the week where I'm in my luteal phase, I could go into the shop and that is too much for me. And I will almost have like a breakdown, go back to my car crying. And it normally tends, one thing that I've really looked at and reported on is that for me, it starts to bubble up throughout the middle of the day. And by the end of the day, I'm an absolute shell of myself. Wow. There are other physical symptoms such as tiredness, low energy, appetite changes either reduced or very intense wanting to eat everything. For me, it is wanting to eat everything and anything. Breast tenderness, and swelling, joint and muscle pain, bloating, weight gain. It is like being a different person.
And it sounds like it's almost like two extremes.
Yes.
So if anyone's listening to this and they're kind of wondering, okay, is what I've got just really bad? I'm going to say PMT, right? Or have I got PMS?
Yeah.
PMDD is this real intense extreme within the month.
And it is a mood disorder. And there are a lot of risk factors for it, which are things such as, so it can be that PMDD is historical in the family. So it could be, a thing that, a lot of your family members have suffered with. It can be impacted by trauma. It can be if you've got a history. So history of trauma, a history of mental health, such as depression and anxiety. And it also has a strong link with hormone sensitivity and those that might be neurotypical as well. Neurodiverse, not neurotypical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, so we've got some stats here, haven't we, around that? So according to Attitude magazine, which is a great magazine for anybody that might want to read more about hormones and neurodiversity, but they say that PMDD disproportionately affects people with ADHD and autism. So with up to 92% of autistic women and 46% of women with ADHD are experiencing PMDD. So they are very high. It's high correlation
link, right?
Yeah.
Real strong link.
Yeah. And so you've mentioned, haven't you? So there's the genetic part, there's this hormone sensitivity part.
Yeah.
But then there's also perhaps how different brains might be impacted by these hormones as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if somebody listening to this, Bianca, if they have resonated with what you've spoken about today, this month of like two halves, where would you recommend that they go to?
There are a couple of things, actually. That's a really good question. And I'm probably going to split that into two halves because it's the where do you go to? Of course, you go to your GP, and this is just going on from other, hormone challenges that we've spoken about, that you would download Flow, you would download something like Balance, and you would track your symptoms. So the doctors need to see that you've tracked your symptoms for a good couple of months, maybe 2 or 3. I think I actually tracked mine and kept a diary for about 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
Because then I can go to the GP, I can say, look, this is what I've tracked. This is what each cycle looks like. And that gives them a very clear picture. PMDD still cannot be tested. I think it is still a long way off, if I'm honest, but that's just my opinion. It can't be tested through blood tests or anything like that. It is, again, another thing that it needs to be diagnosed through symptoms and symptoms alone. So make sure you've got that recorded. And then another thing is that, what do you do? So again, they do say that there are SSRIs that help with symptoms. For me, I am on citalopram and I was fitted with the Mirena coil. So my symptom days are a lot less than they were. But one thing that I would say to anyone listening, if you have been diagnosed with PMDD, and I know that it's really, really hard when someone turns around and says, well, you need to get out and walk more, or you need to, meditate or read a book. You think, I'll tell you where you can put your book.
Yeah.
I know, and I've been there, but honestly, you've got to persevere and you've got to look at what lifestyle changes realistically you can make. And this isn't me turning around and telling you you've got to stop drinking, but be realistic with yourself in that actually, if I am this bad, because suicidal thoughts is a really common symptom of PMDD, if you're feeling that bad, is it really the best thing that you could be doing with your lifestyle is to go out drinking each weekend, especially around that time of your cycle maybe. Yeah. But also remember to, and this is probably the most important tip that I give, you're human, be kind to yourself. clear your diary, which is hard to do, but clear your diary, or just make sure that if you're planning stuff around that part of your cycle, you can easily cancel or clear that diary, or make people aware that you might not be able to make that certain event.
I love that.
You've got to be honest with people. You've got to tell people how you're feeling, what you're going through. Otherwise, they won't know. And it's just about, I sometimes just say, just have a day. It doesn't have to be a good day. It doesn't have to be a bad day. You just have to get through it.
Yeah.
And if that means that you've just got up and brushed your teeth and worked from home and that's it,
Then that's okay.
then that is okay. That is great. And if you've got any questions, then please do pop us an email at podcast@hormonesontheblink.com.
Thank you, Bianca. And where should we put in as well some links to places people to go and look at, like IMP?
Yes, IAPMD
Yeah.
is a website that has everything you could possibly want to know about PMDD. It's a great first place for your research. So we'll link the website link for that website below. And I would highly recommend that you go and check it out. But also make sure you're following us, subscribe, and we're always here if you've got any questions for us.
Thank you, Bianca, for sharing your experience.
You are more than welcome, and thank you to all of you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode of Hormones on the Blink.